I'm Vivian Lee, 30, a geneticist at GeneX in San Francisco. I poured 5 years of my life into finding a cure for the cruel Huntington's disease. But in one single night, my life's work, the multi-million-dollar Chimera project, was brazenly stolen by Alastair Thorne, the mentor I trusted most. He didn't just erase my name from every report, he deliberately added a fatal genetic flaw. Worse, Nexus Corp pressured him to rush the project, turning my breakthrough into a flawed therapy designed not to fully cure, but to create lifelong dependency on their other expensive palliative drugs, profiting from patient suffering. I was just a small-time scientist, facing off against a giant corporation and a former mentor. With a knife to my throat, I could lose everything. But the special genetic codes I secretly embedded in my work became undeniable steel-clad proof. I won't let my efforts be trampled, and more importantly, no one will be pushed into the deadly trap they created. I will expose it all myself. At 30, I was a whirlwind of ambition and intellect, my spirit as boundless as the San Francisco Bay outside my lab window. I thrived on the hum of sequencers and the silent promise of DNA strands. My world revolved around a single, ambitious goal: finding a cure for Huntington's disease, a cruel genetic ailment that stole minds and bodies long before their time. For the past 5 years, I had poured my life into Project Chimera, a revolutionary gene editing technology. It wasn't just another CRISPR variant. It was a bespoke biological tool designed to precisely snip out the expanded CAG repeats responsible for Huntington, without collateral damage to the surrounding genome. It was elegant, audacious, and in my latest in vitro trials, incredibly effective. My mentor, Professor Alastair Thorne, a man whose name was synonymous with genetic breakthroughs, whose office was adorned with countless awards, watched my progress with a keen, often unsettling intensity. Thorne, nearing 60, possessed a gravitas that could sway venture capitalists and scientific boards alike. He was the reason I had joined GeneX, drawn by his reputation and the promise of unlimited resources for my research. "Vivian, my dear, another late night?" Thorne's smooth baritone cut through the quiet hum of the lab one Tuesday evening. He stood at the entrance of my workspace, a shadow against the darkened hallway. I jumped slightly, not having heard him approach. "Professor Thorne, just one more replication, almost there. The preliminary data for Chimera is remarkable." I held up a petri dish, my eyes shining with exhaustion and triumph. The CAG repeat reduction is consistently above 95%, with virtually no off-target edits. Thorne stepped closer, his gaze fixed on the dish, then on the glowing screen of my sequencer. "Excellent, truly excellent, Vivian, just as I always knew you would deliver." He clapped me gently on the shoulder, a gesture that usually felt paternal but tonight carried an unidentifiable weight. "This, my dear, is it. The breakthrough we've been waiting for. The world is about to know Project Chimera." A wave of pride, mixed with a familiar pang of under-recognition, washed over me. I knew Thorne would present it as he always presented the major findings. That was the established hierarchy. I was the architect, he was the public face. "I've refined the final protocol for the in vivo trials, Professor. We should be ready to submit the full package to the IRB by next month." "Next month." Thorne chuckled, a dry, dismissive sound. "Vivian, we don't have next month. The world needs this now. The board needs this now. We push for an expedited review." He paused, eyes narrowing slightly. "Send me everything. All your raw data, the refined protocols, the Chimera algorithms. I'll personally ensure the submission is flawless. We'll present this at the Global Gene Summit in 2 weeks. It's the perfect stage." I felt a flicker of unease. 2 weeks was incredibly fast. "But the full safety profile, Professor. We need more data on long-term genomic stability. And the proprietary genetic markers I embedded for tracking." "Details, Vivian, details." Thorne waved a dismissive hand. "We have enough preliminary data to make a compelling case. Trust me, I've been doing this a long time. Speed is paramount in this field, especially with the pressure from our investors from," he stopped himself, then continued, "from the patients, Vivian. Think of the patients." That last line was Thorne's ultimate weapon, striking at my deepest chord. I nodded, my reservations buzzing beneath the surface, quieted by the thought of those suffering. "Of course, Professor, I'll compile everything tonight. It's all in the secure server, coded with my unique genetic signature." "Perfect. Absolutely perfect." Thorne's smile was wide, almost predatory. "This will be the crown jewel of GeneX, and you, Vivian, will be an integral part of its legacy." He turned, his silhouette receding into the dim corridor, leaving me alone with the hum of my lab and a growing sense of disquiet. The next few days were a blur. I worked tirelessly, preparing every byte of data, every protocol detail, every meticulously crafted algorithm for Thorn. I double-checked the embedded genetic markers, unique, non-coding sequences I'd woven into my initial synthetic DNA constructs and carried through every iteration of Chimera. They were my indelible signature, proof of my intellectual ownership, a failsafe in case my work was ever questioned. I'd learned early in my career that in the cutthroat world of biotech, one could never be too careful. Meanwhile, Thorn became a whirlwind of activity, holding meetings with the board, investors, and PR teams. The buzz around GeneX was palpable. Dr. Evelyn Reed, head of clinical trials, a woman known for her meticulous attention to detail and sharp, no-nonsense demeanor, cornered me in the break room one afternoon. "Vivian, are you seeing this?" Evelyn gestured to her tablet, displaying a press release from GeneX. Professor Alastair Thorn announces groundbreaking gene therapy, Project Chimera, set to revolutionize treatment for Huntington's disease. "No mention of you," I sighed, stirring my lukewarm coffee. "It's just a preliminary announcement, Evelyn. You know how these things work. He's the public face. I'll be in the scientific papers, the detailed presentations." Evelyn raised a skeptical eyebrow. "Are you sure? Thorn has a history, Vivian. Remember the Thorn-Peterson algorithm from 5 years ago? Peterson did all the heavy lifting." "But he always gave credit eventually," I countered, though the memory of that incident and others like it did little to soothe me. "He's my mentor. He believes in Chimera. He believes in his own legacy, Vivian," Evelyn said, voice dropping to a confidential whisper. "And right now, that legacy needs a massive win. Word is, GeneX is bleeding cash on some other failed ventures. They need a big announcement, something to appease the investors. And Thorn, he's always been good at delivering what the market wants, even if it means streamlining." "Streamlining? What do you mean?" I asked, unease intensifying. "Cutting corners, rushing things." Evelyn's eyes scanned the room before returning to me. "He pushed hard to accelerate the in vivo trials, didn't he? Before all the long-term safety data was in?" I nodded slowly, my coffee now forgot. "He said speed was paramount, for the patients. For the investors, more like," Evelyn scoffed. "And there's pressure from a major pharmaceutical conglomerate, Nexus Corp. They've been circling GeneX like vultures, looking for a lucrative acquisition. Chimera could be their golden ticket." The pieces began to click into place. The expedited review, the sudden rush, the omission of my name. It wasn't just about Thorn's ego, it was about a desperate grab for a lifeline, and my work was being used as bait. 2 weeks later, the Global Gene Summit in Boston was a spectacle of scientific ambition. I sat in the bustling conference hall, heart thumping, watching Thorn take the stage. The giant screen behind him displayed a sleek slide. "Project Chimera, a new dawn for genetic disease." No mention of me, no co-authors, just his name, bold and authoritative. He launched into his presentation, using all my carefully crafted slides, stunning visualizations of DNA repair and breakthrough data. He spoke of my team's relentless pursuit and our groundbreaking discovery, but the pronoun I dominated his speech. I watched, a cold knot forming in my stomach. It was my work, my life's blood, being presented as his own. I felt invisible, a ghost in my own creation. Then came the Q&A. Dr. Eris Thorn, a renowned geneticist from MIT and Thorn's estranged brother, stood up. "Professor Thorn, congratulations on what appears to be a truly significant advance. However, I have a question regarding the long-term genomic stability. Your data seems to indicate an unprecedented lack of off-target effects, even after extended replication cycles. Can you elaborate on the specific methodologies used to achieve this?" Thorn cleared his throat, a hint of discomfort in his eyes. "Ah, yes, Dr. Thorn. We employed a novel predictive algorithm to optimize the guide RNA design, ensuring maximum specificity." I knew why. He didn't understand it. He hadn't built it. I felt a surge of resolve. This wasn't just about my credit anymore. This was about the integrity of the science, about the patients. Thorn was oversimplifying, potentially misrepresenting the very core of Chimera. Later that evening, Thorn called me jubilant. "Vivian, a triumph, an absolute triumph. The investors are ecstatic. Nexus Corp is already talking acquisition." "Professor, I watched the presentation," I said, keeping my voice even. "You didn't address Dr. Eris Thorn's question properly. The stability isn't just about guide RNA, it's about the unique scaffold protein, the self-correcting feedback loop in the enzyme." "I had to simplify, Vivian, for the audience," Thorn snapped. "They don't need the minutiae. They need the big picture, the promise, and I delivered it. But you didn't even mention the genetic signature, Professor, I pressed. The unique non-coding sequences I embed in all my constructs for tracking. That's crucial for integrity. There was a heavy pause, then a low, dangerous growl. Vivian, do not question my methods. I am your mentor. I know what's best for this project and for your career. Now I need you to prepare the final preclinical report for the Nexus team. Make it pristine. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, realization washing over me. The genetic signatures. I had embedded them for precisely this reason, to mark my territory. But in my trust, I had given Thorn access to everything. What if he had deliberately removed them? Or, worse, altered them? I immediately logged into the secure server, fingers flying. I navigated to the core Chimera algorithm files, the ones I had sent Thorn, and pulled up the code for the genetic signature embedding tool. I ran a diagnostic. My heart pounded. The code was there, untouched. But the implementation within the actual Chimera constructs, subtly different. A single line, virtually undetectable, had been commented out. It was enough to disable the unique genetic signature in the constructs Thorn now claimed as his own. He hadn't removed them entirely. He had rendered them inert. He had streamlined my failsafe. A cold rage built within me. He hadn't just stolen my work, he had desecrated it, undermined its integrity for his own gain, and he thought I wouldn't notice. He thought I was just back-end support, incapable of understanding my own creation. I spent the entire night in the lab, not working on reports for Thorn, but on something else entirely. I pulled up my original, unadulterated Chimera files from my encrypted backup drive. These were the true Chimera, with my genetic signatures fully active. I created parallel simulations, one with Thorn, streamlined code, another with my original, full protocol. I wanted to see the long-term effects of his optimizations. I knew that cutting corners, even small ones, in genetic editing could have unforeseen, catastrophic consequences. This was no longer about credit. It was about patient safety. The next morning, the news hit like a bombshell. GeneX had officially announced a preliminary agreement with Nexus Corp for the acquisition of Project Chimera. Thorn was hailed as a visionary, the architect of a new era. My name was relegated to a minor mention in a footnote of the internal press release under contributing researchers. But the real storm was brewing in the sterile in vivo trials. Dr. Alex Chen, a brilliant postdoc working under Evelyn, found me in the microscopy room, pale with concern. Dr. Lee, I think there's a problem with Project Chimera's latest in vivo run, he stammered. The mice in Group C, the ones treated with Thorn's constructs, they're showing unusual neurological symptoms. Tremors, disorientation, not consistent with typical Huntington's progression, and definitely not what we saw in the initial trials. I felt a chill. Unusual neurological symptoms? Are you sure it's related to the treatment? The control groups are fine, Alex confirmed. These symptoms started after the 4th week post-treatment. Full genomic sequencing shows no obvious off-target edits with standard protocols. It's like the DNA is fine, but the expression is wrong. My mind raced. Show me the full genomic data. Every base pair, every transcript. I suspected it wasn't about off-target edits. It was about something subtle, insidious, related to Thorn's streamlining. Hours later, I saw it. A tiny, almost imperceptible modification in the scaffold protein binding region, a single nucleotide substitution. It wouldn't cause a direct off-target edit, but it subtly altered protein conformation and binding efficiency. It was a change Thorn had made, claiming it would improve the delivery system. I had warned him it was untested, an unnecessary risk. He tried to improve on my design, I muttered. What is it, Dr. Lee? Alex asked. This, I pointed at the alteration. This isn't an off-target edit. It's on-target but flawed. The altered scaffold protein misfolds the corrected mRNA, leading to aberrant protein expression. It's a tiny, perfectly placed wrench in the molecular machinery. Standard sequencing won't catch it because the DNA sequence is technically correct, but the function is compromised. So, the gene is corrected, but the protein is still toxic. Precisely, I confirmed. A ticking time bomb. It won't cause immediate catastrophic damage, but over time it leads to neurological decline, potentially mirroring or worsening Huntington's symptoms. It's a genetic trap. I pulled up my original Chimera protocol with the fully functional scaffold protein and compared the sequences. The difference was stark and devastating. Professor Thorne deliberately altered my protocol, I said, voice trembling with anger and fear. He removed my genetic signature and then inserted this flaw, all to claim it as his own, all to rush it to market. Alex stared at me. This is huge, more than academic misconduct. It's a massive patient safety issue. If this goes to human trials, exactly, I cut him off. It cannot go to human trials, we have to stop this. I realized the stakes. This wasn't just about my intellectual property or career. This was about countless lives and the profound ethical responsibility of wielding the power to alter the human genome. Thorne, in his ambition, had not only stolen my work, he had weaponized it. I couldn't confront Thorne directly. He would deny everything, use his influence to silence me. I needed irrefutable proof, not just of his theft, but of the dangerous flaw he introduced. I needed to expose the genetic trap before it claimed human lives. I thought of the unique genetic signatures I had embedded, the ones he had rendered inert. In my original backup files, they were fully active. I needed a way to prove that my original safe constructs existed and that Thorne were both stolen and flawed. Alex, I said, forming a plan, I need your help. We need to run a deep dive genomic analysis, focusing on my unique genetic markers. They're invisible to standard protocols, but I know how to find them. If we can show my original, safe constructs exist and Thorne's don't carry these markers or carry a compromised version, we have proof. Alex nodded. Consider it done, Dr. Lee, I'm with you. I remembered the ultimate failsafe I built into my research files. Encrypted, time-stamped logs detailing every step of my development, every iteration, every test, protected by a complex biometric lock and a unique cryptographic key, my digital fortress. I knew exactly where to find the key. Ironically, it was embedded in the non-coding sequences of my genetic signatures. The genetic trap was about to be turned on its creator. The clock was ticking. The Nexus acquisition was moving at breakneck speed, fueled by Thorne's charisma and the allure of a miracle cure. Alex and I worked clandestinely, balancing legitimate lab work with secret data mining. Evelyn noticed my renewed intensity and Alex's dedication. One afternoon, Evelyn found me hunched over a microscope, brow furrowed. "Vivian, you look like you're carrying the weight of the world. What's truly going on with Chimera? Nexus is pushing for a human trial proposal within the month." I met her gaze. "Evelyn, there are inconsistencies, significant ones regarding the protocol Thorne is pushing. I believe there's a critical flaw in his construct." Evelyn's expression hardened. "A flaw? What kind?" I explained the subtle nucleotide substitution, the compromised scaffold protein, and the aberrant protein expression. It's designed to slip under standard safety checks. The neurological symptoms Alex observed are just the beginning. Evelyn grew paler. "Vivian, this is a nightmare. If this is true, Thorne isn't just stealing your work, he's endangering lives. Do you have proof?" "I'm building it," I said. "Alex is running a deep genomic analysis. I embedded unique non-coding genetic signatures in my original Chimera constructs. If Thorne removed or altered them, it's undeniable proof of tampering and the difference between his flawed version and my safe one." Evelyn paced, mind racing. "If you're right, this acquisition must be halted, and Thorne, he'll be ruined. But GeneX will be in jeopardy too. Stock will plummet. Other projects might fail without Nexus." "My priority is patient safety," I said firmly. "No money is worth putting people at risk." Evelyn stopped pacing, admiration flickering in her eyes. "You're right, but it's going to be a bloodbath. Thorne has powerful allies, especially with Nexus breathing down our necks. We need irrefutable evidence and a strategy. Who else knows?" "Only Alex for now." "Good, keep it that way. I'll review the broader GeneX portfolio, looking for other areas where Thorne might have streamlined things, and I'll subtly push for more comprehensive long-term safety data before human trials. Buy us time." Our alliance was forged. Alex, with his quiet brilliance, dove into the sequencing, searching for my genetic watermarks with specialized bioinformatics scripts. Meanwhile, Thorne continued his triumphant tour, holding press conferences, charming investors. On TV, he presented a dazzling animated simulation of Chimera at work, my visual masterpiece. "This is not just science," he declared. "This is a promise fulfilled. We are on the cusp of eradicating Huntington's." I watched from my apartment, bitter. I knew the animated strands he pointed to were my flawless original. But the constructs in the in vivo trials carried a silent, insidious flaw. A week later, Alex burst into my lab, excitement and exhaustion on his face. "Vivian, I found them, your genetic signatures. They're absent in Thorne's latest batch, the ones showing neurological symptoms. In the earlier batches, they're present, but the scaffold protein sequence is subtly altered, exactly as you predicted. He pushed a tablet across the desk, displaying complex bioinformatics readouts. 2 distinct sequences, Vivian Orig Chimera, showing the unique markers, and Thorne X batch, showing a void and a significant scaffold protein difference. "This is it, Alex," I breathed, relief washing over me, followed by renewed urgency. "Irrefutable proof, not just that he stole it, but that he tampered with it. And it's time-stamped," Alex added, pointing to metadata. "Your original files, my analysis, dates of Thorne's construct batches, clear timeline." I revealed my final piece, encrypted, time-stamped development logs protected by biometric lock and cryptographic key. These logs detail every step, every test, every design decision linked to my genetic signatures. They prove when and how the real chimera was built and verify my construct's integrity. "How do you unlock them?" Alex asked. "The key," I smiled grimly, "is woven into the non-coding sequences of my genetic signatures. A biometric scan of my thumbprint against a specific molecular sequence. A genetic key." With evidence in hand, Evelyn suggested an outside ally, Dr. Eris Thorne. "Alastair's brother hasn't spoken in years, brilliant, ethical, respected. If anyone can stand up to Alastair, it's him." I hesitated. Confronting Alastair's brother felt extreme. But Evelyn was right, we needed authority. The meeting with Eris was arranged discreetly. Away from GeneX, he listened as we laid out our case. He examined Alex's data, my lab notebooks, schematics. Alastair was always ambitious, Eris said quietly. But this, to compromise patient safety for speed, it's beyond ambition, it's reckless. I explained the genetic trap, the subtle flaw, and my genetic signature's absence in Thorne's constructs. I unlocked my encrypted logs, showing a meticulous timeline. Eris spent hours poring over evidence, asking incisive questions, running quick simulations. Finally, he looked up, face etched with sadness and anger. "This isn't just theft, Dr. Lee. It's scientific malpractice of the highest order, a grave threat to public health. You have my full support. We present this to the FDA and GeneX's board. Immediately." The next days were a blur of hushed conversations, emergency meetings, and growing tension. Alastair Thorne became paranoid, barking orders, accusing team members of disloyalty. One morning, I received a chilling email from Thorne. "Vivian, I've had reports of unauthorized access to Project Chimera files. I trust you are not involved in clandestine activities that could jeopardize our acquisition. Any breach will result in immediate termination and legal action." A thinly veiled threat. I felt fear, quickly replaced by defiance. He was cornered. The following day, a special board meeting at GeneX convened. Board members, CEO, legal team, Eris Thorne, and FDA representative Dr. Lena Hansen were present. Alastair sat at the head of the table, radiating embattled authority. "Gentlemen, ladies," the CEO began, voice tight, "we have called this emergency meeting to address very serious allegations regarding Project Chimera and its proposed acquisition by Nexus Corp." He gestured to Eris. "Dr. Eris Thorne will present his findings." Eris laid out the case with scientific precision. He presented Alex's data, highlighting absence of my genetic signatures in Thorne's constructs and the subtle flaw. Projected affected mice images and explained the aberrant protein mechanism. Alastair listened, slowly draining of color. "This is preposterous," he thundered, slamming his fist. "Fabricated. Dr. Lee has always been disgruntled, trying to undermine my work. This is a smear campaign, orchestrated by my own jealous brother." "Professor Thorne," Eris replied, calm, "Dr. Lee's original research logs, time-stamped and secured by biometric and genetic keys, tell a very different story. They document the development of Chimera, the point your modifications were introduced." I took the floor, voice steady. I presented my encrypted logs, showing the timeline and Thorne's access. I showed how he disabled my genetic signature and inserted the dangerous optimization. "This isn't about intellectual property," I concluded. "It's about patient safety. The version of Chimera Thorne is presenting, rushed to human trials, is a ticking time bomb. It will not cure Huntington. It will cause insidious neurological damage." Dr. Hansen spoke sharply. "Professor Thorne, if proven, your actions constitute gross scientific misconduct, fraud, and a direct threat to public health. FDA will launch a full investigation. All human trials for Chimera are halted pending a full safety review of Dr. Lee's protocol." The room erupted. Board members whispered furiously. The CEO looked like he'd aged 10 years. Alistair finally broke. They pushed me, GeneX was failing, they needed a faster timeline. They threatened to pull out if I didn't deliver a market-ready product in weeks. His voice cracked. I had no choice, I had to streamline. The revelation hung heavy. Thorne had been pressured, blackmailed perhaps, by Nexus, exploiting GeneX's desperation. He sacrificed scientific integrity and patient safety for corporate gain. The CEO turned to Thorne. Professor, your services are terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the premises. As he was led away, small and defeated, I felt vindication mixed with profound sadness. My mentor, the man I had once admired, had fallen prey to ambition and corporate pressure, sacrificing everything for a hollow victory. The aftermath was a whirlwind. GeneX's stock plummeted, but the swift action of the board and the FDA, along with the undeniable evidence that Evelyn, Alex, and I provided, helped to contain the damage. The Nexus Corp acquisition was called off, and a new, more ethical path was set for Project Chimera. I was now recognized as the true architect of Chimera, and I was offered a new position, head of gene therapy development, with full autonomy to lead my project. Evelyn Reed became my closest ally, ensuring the highest standards of clinical trials. Alex Chen was promoted to lead bioinformatician for Project Chimera, his brilliance finally given the platform it deserved. Project Chimera was resurrected, but this time, it was built on a foundation of integrity and rigorous science. Fully empowered, my team and I meticulously reevaluated every step, running comprehensive long-term safety studies, ensuring every possible side effect was understood and mitigated. We focused on refining my original, safe protocol, embedding my genetic signatures more prominently as an unalterable mark of authenticity and safety. The scientific community, initially shocked by the scandal, rallied behind me. My story became a cautionary tale of ambition corrupted and a beacon of hope for ethical science. Dr. Eris Thorne became a staunch advocate for me, his public endorsement bolstering my reputation and the credibility of my work. 3 months later, I stood in front of the GeneX board, presenting the revised Project Chimera. It was the same revolutionary technology, but this time, it was truly safe, truly ready. My voice was confident, my data impeccable, and my passion undeniable. Project Chimera in its true form, I concluded, is not just a gene therapy. It is a testament to the power of ethical science, to the courage of those who prioritize patient safety above all else. We are ready to proceed with human trials, with the full confidence that we are offering hope, not harm. The board, chastened but hopeful, unanimously approved the human trials. The journey was long, arduous, and filled with meticulous detail, but under my unwavering leadership, Project Chimera finally began its path to genuinely changing lives. Alex, Evelyn, and I often reflected on the genetic trap Thorne had walked into. He had believed he could take shortcuts, hide his tracks, and exploit the genius of others. But I, the invisible architect, had woven an intricate web of safeguards into my work, a biological and digital fortress that ultimately turned his own ambition against him. You know, Evelyn remarked one evening, watching me meticulously review a new set of data, Thorne's biggest mistake wasn't just stealing your work, it was underestimating you. He saw you as back-end support, not the brilliant mind who understood every single atom of her creation. I smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. And that, Evelyn, was his undoing. Because when you truly understand something, you can anticipate its every flaw and every trap. The story of Project Chimera and the woman who fought for its integrity became a legend within GeneX, a reminder that true scientific progress isn't built on shortcuts or stolen glory, but on unwavering dedication, ethical rigor, and the courage to speak truth to power. I was no longer invisible. I had not only saved my project, but had also set a new standard for a future where science truly served humanity. And so, I continued my work, surrounded by a team I trusted, in a lab where integrity was paramount. I was no longer just a brilliant geneticist. I was a guardian of truth, a beacon of hope, proving that even in the most cutthroat environments, the purest science, backed by an unyielding spirit, would always prevail. My genetic signatures, once a silent watermark, now hummed vibrantly in every construct, a testament to my enduring legacy. The initial phase of Project Chimera's human trials began 6 months after Thorne's ousting. It was a rigorous, double-blind study, carefully monitored by Evelyn Reed and a newly appointed ethics committee. Now officially Dr. Lee, head of gene therapy development, I oversaw every detail, from vector production to patient selection. My lab was a hub of purposeful activity, devoid of the previous tension. Alex, as lead bioinformatician, meticulously tracked every genomic change, every patient response. The first patient was a 7-year-old girl named Maya, whose young life was already being shadowed by the early onset of Huntington's. Her parents, desperate for hope, had placed their full trust in us. "We will not let them down," I vowed to Evelyn and Alex on the eve of Maya's treatment. Every single detail of this protocol has been scrutinized, every safety check in place. This is the real chimera. The treatment went smoothly. Maya, a bright-eyed child whose laughter was already tinged with a fragile sadness, received the modified viral vector carrying my perfected gene editing construct. We held our breath, monitoring her vitals, her neurological responses, every flicker of change. Weeks turned into months. Maya showed remarkable progress. Her tremors, initially subtle, began to recede. Her cognitive functions, which had shown early signs of decline, stabilized and even improved. The MRI scans showed a healthy, stable brain, devoid of the lesions typically associated with Huntington's progression. The preliminary results were astounding. Project Chimera was working. Not only was it safe, but it was showing unprecedented efficacy. The news, carefully disseminated by GeneX and the FDA, sent ripples of hope through the scientific and patient communities. "Dr. Lee, your work is a miracle," Maya's mother wept, embracing me in the clinic hallway after a particularly positive checkup. "You've given us our daughter back." I remained grounded, deeply moved. "It's not a miracle, Mrs. Sharma, it's science. Good, ethical science." Word of Chimera's success reached Dr. Eris Thorne, who became an even more vocal advocate for me. He wrote glowing articles in prestigious scientific journals, praising my rigor and integrity, and condemning the dangers of scientific shortcuts. Dr. Lee's work is a testament to the fact that true innovation is born from patience and ethical commitment, not reckless ambition, he penned in one particularly influential editorial. However, the shadow of Alastair Thorne's malpractice still lingered. The FDA's investigation into his conduct was ongoing, and Nexus Corp, facing public backlash and a plunging stock price, was struggling to recover. The scandal had shaken the biotech world, forcing many companies to reevaluate their internal review processes and ethical guidelines. One day, I received an unexpected email from Dr. Lena Hansen, the FDA representative who had overseen the emergency board meeting. "Dr. Lee, we've uncovered something during our investigation into Alastair Thorne that you might find relevant." Intrigued, I arranged a video call with her. Lena's face, usually stern, was etched with a new concern. "Dr. Lee, during our deep dive into Alastair Thorne's digital footprint, we found evidence of his prior dealings with Nexus Corp. It appears their involvement in rushing Chimera was far more direct than previously understood. They weren't just pressuring him, they were actively dictating terms." "What kind of terms?" I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. "Nexus Corp had a proprietary drug in their pipeline, a palliative treatment for Huntington's," Lena explained. "It was moderately effective but incredibly expensive and required lifelong administration. They were facing immense pressure from competitors with cheaper, equally effective drugs. So, they wanted to acquire Chimera to eliminate competition?" I mused. "More than that," Lena revealed. "Their internal communications suggest they saw Chimera as a double-edged sword. A cure would eliminate their palliative drugs market entirely. But if they could control the cure, rush it to market, and perhaps subtly compromise it," I felt my eyes widen. They wanted to ensure it wouldn't be a complete cure, or that it would have long-term side effects that their existing palliative drug could then manage. The horror of the thought sent a shiver down my spine. A genetic trap designed to create a lifelong dependency on their other product. "Exactly," Lena confirmed grimly. "We found proposals from Nexus outlining integration strategies for their palliative drug alongside Chimera, even in a curative scenario. And some of these proposals specifically referenced Alastair Thorne's flexibility in adjusting research protocols for market readiness." I felt a cold fury wash over me. It wasn't just Thorne's ambition. He had been a pawn in a far more cynical, calculated scheme. Nexus Corp hadn't just wanted a quick acquisition, they wanted a compromised cure, a perpetual revenue stream built on human suffering. The subtle flaw Thorne introduced wasn't merely his mistake, it was potentially a deliberate design choice, dictated by a corporate entity. "This changes everything," I whispered, my voice tight with suppressed anger. Thorne was exploited, yes, but he was a willing participant in a scheme that would have sentenced patients to a different kind of slow suffering, all for profit. "Indeed," Lena agreed. "Our legal team is now building a case against Nexus Corp for corporate malfeasance and potential conspiracy to commit medical fraud. Your evidence, Dr. Lee, is crucial to this. It proves the deliberate alteration of a life-saving therapy." The news about Nexus Corp's involvement sent shockwaves through the industry. The subsequent lawsuit was massive, drawing international attention. Alastair Thorne, already disgraced, now faced even more severe charges, including complicity in medical fraud. Amidst the legal battles and corporate fallout, I remained focused on my patients. Project Chimera continued to yield extraordinary results. Maya, after a year, was thriving. She was hitting developmental milestones, her laughter unburdened, her future bright. "We're seeing complete arrest of disease progression in all our initial trial participants," Evelyn reported to me one morning, her voice filled with quiet triumph. "And absolutely no signs of the neurological symptoms Thorne's compromised constructs would have caused." I smiled, a genuine, unadulterated smile. "The genetic signatures worked, Evelyn. They ensured that only the true, safe chimera would move forward." The success of Project Chimera brought new challenges. With its proven efficacy, demand skyrocketed. GeneX, now under new, ethical leadership, faced the daunting task of scaling up production and ensuring equitable access to the life-saving therapy. I, as head of gene therapy development, found myself not just a scientist, but a leader, an advocate, and a strategist. I collaborated with international organizations, worked with governments to establish fair pricing models, and pushed for global access. My team, expanded and energized, included not just brilliant scientists, but also ethicists, policymakers, and patient advocates. Alex, with his deep understanding of bioinformatics, designed sophisticated tracking systems to ensure the integrity of every single chimera construct produced. One of my biggest supporters was Clara Morales, a fierce patient advocate whose own brother suffered from Huntington. Clara had been instrumental in pushing for ethical drug development and had initially been skeptical of GeneX after the Thorne scandal, but my transparency and dedication had won her over. "Dr. Lee, your transparency saved my brother's life," Clara told me during a public forum on equitable access. "After everything with Thorne, I almost lost hope, but you showed us that true science, true empathy, still exists in this world. And you proved that patient safety should always come first." I took the stage, looking out at the faces of patients and their families, my heart swelling with gratitude and a renewed sense of purpose. The journey of Project Chimera has taught us many lessons. It has shown us the dangers of unchecked ambition and corporate greed. But more importantly, it has shown us the immense power of collaboration, of integrity, and of unwavering commitment to the well-being of every single patient. I paused, letting my gaze sweep over the crowd. When I first started this project, I embedded a unique genetic signature into my constructs. It was a scientific watermark, a proof of origin. But it became more than that. It became a symbol of authenticity, a guarantee of safety. Because in every single dose of Chimera, that signature hums, a silent promise that this therapy is pure, true, and untainted by compromise. I held up a small, crystal-clear vial containing a minuscule amount of the precious Chimera solution. This is not just a treatment. It is a testament to what we can achieve when we prioritize ethics over profit, when we put humanity at the heart of our scientific endeavors. Project Chimera is here not just as a cure, but as a commitment. The applause was deafening, a chorus of hope and gratitude. Once the invisible architect, I now stood as a visible leader, a symbol of a new era in genetic medicine. My story, and the story of Chimera, became an inspiration, not just for scientists, but for anyone who dared to dream of a better, more ethical future. The legal battle against Nexus Corp dragged on for years, a complex web of corporate maneuvers and legal wrangling. However, with the FDA's damning evidence and my irrefutable scientific proof, the tides slowly turned. Nexus Corp eventually faced unprecedented fines and a severe blow to its reputation. Its palliative Huntington's drug was heavily scrutinized, and its ethical practices were called into question globally. Alastair Thorne, stripped of all his awards and academic titles, faced criminal charges for medical fraud and endangering public health. His once illustrious career was not just ruined, it was an indelible stain on the history of genetic research. His name became synonymous with scientific hubris and ethical compromise. I, meanwhile, flourished. My leadership transformed GeneX into a beacon of ethical biotech. I mentored a new generation of scientists, instilling in them the values of integrity, transparency, and patient-first research. My lab became a model for responsible innovation, a place where the pursuit of knowledge was always balanced with an unwavering moral compass. Project Chimera expanded its reach, bringing hope to Huntington's patients across the globe. I oversaw continuous improvements, ensuring the therapy remained at the cutting edge of science. My genetic signatures, refined and enhanced, became a standard for authenticity in gene therapies, a testament to the fact that scientific integrity could be embedded at the very molecular level. In my new, spacious corner office overlooking the San Francisco Bay, I often looked at a framed photo on my desk. It was of Maya, smiling brightly, playing in a park, her eyes full of life and a future once denied. Beside it sat a small, intricate glass sculpture of a DNA helix, a gift from Alex and Evelyn, with tiny, almost invisible luminous points representing my genetic signatures. I remembered Thorne's ambition, Nexus Corp's greed, and the dangerous genetic trap they had tried to set. But I also remembered the courage of Evelyn, the unwavering support of Alex, the ethical stand of Eris Thorne, and the hope in Clara Morales's eyes. It was a reminder that while darkness could exist, the light of truth and integrity would always find a way to shine through. I had not just created a cure, I had rebuilt trust in science. I had shown that the most powerful innovations were those that held humanity, and not profit, at their core. And in doing so, I had not only found my own voice, but had amplified the voices of countless patients, ensuring that their well-being would always be the ultimate measure of scientific success. The success of Project Chimera's initial human trials opened new doors, but also brought unprecedented scrutiny. The global biotech community watched, eager to replicate our success while wary of the pitfalls exposed by the Thorne scandal. I, now a figure of international renown, embraced the responsibility. I knew that maintaining Chimera's integrity and ensuring its ethical deployment worldwide was as crucial as its initial development. One of the first challenges was managing the immense demand. Clinics from every continent clamored for access, and GeneX, though growing rapidly, struggled to keep pace. I established a rigorous internal review process, collaborating with public health organizations to prioritize patients based on medical need, not financial status. I personally oversaw the training of new teams, emphasizing not just the technical nuances of Chimera's administration, but also the profound ethical responsibility that came with it. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a seasoned public health expert from Doctors Without Borders, joined my team as head of global access. Elena, a no-nonsense leader with a decade of experience navigating complex healthcare systems in developing nations, quickly became my trusted advisor on the logistical and ethical challenges of global distribution. "Vivian, the pressure is immense," Elena stated during a strategy meeting, tapping her pen against a global map dotted with demand hotspots. "Every country wants Chimera. We have to ensure it reaches those who need it most, not just those who can afford it. And without compromising the quality or safety of the construct," I added, emphasizing my unwavering core principle. "Every single dose must carry our genetic signatures, proof of its authenticity and safety. We cannot have any streamlined versions slipping into the supply chain." This commitment to integrity extended to the manufacturing process. I worked with GeneX's engineering team to develop a fully automated, closed-loop production system for Chimera. This system incorporated real-time genetic sequencing at every stage, verifying the presence and integrity of my unique genetic signatures in each batch. Any deviation, no matter how small, would halt production and trigger an immediate investigation. It was an expensive, complex system, but I insisted on it. "We learned our lesson," I told the GeneX board. "Quality control isn't just a process, it's a moral imperative." And in gene therapy, that imperative means absolute genomic fidelity, guaranteed by our embedded markers. The legal battle against Nexus Corp was an ongoing saga. The FDA, armed with my evidence and their own exhaustive investigation, had filed a landmark lawsuit. News reports detailed how Nexus had exerted immense pressure on Alastair Thorne, promising him lavish rewards if he could deliver a market-ready version of Chimera that would, subtly, create a dependency on their other drugs. Thorne's desperation, combined with Nexus's ruthless ambition, had created the perfect storm for scientific malpractice. During one of the court proceedings, Nexus Corp's legal team tried to discredit my genetic signatures, claiming they were untested scientific novelties and not reliable proof of tampering. Dr. Eris Thorne, called as an expert witness, delivered a scathing rebuttal. Dr. Lee's genetic signatures are not novelties, Eris declared from the witness stand, his voice commanding the courtroom's attention. They are elegantly designed, non-coding sequences that act as unique molecular barcodes. Their absence or alteration in a construct, especially in a critical binding region, is irrefutable proof of manipulation. Any geneticist worth their salt can verify their presence and integrity. He then showed how I had used these signatures not just as watermarks, but as a critical component of my original protocol's internal quality control, a failsafe against subtle errors. It was a masterclass in scientific explanation, leaving Nexus's lawyers scrambling. The judge, clearly swayed, allowed my evidence to stand. The public outcry against Nexus Corp grew louder. Patient advocacy groups, led by Clara Morales, organized protests and social media campaigns demanding accountability. Clara, now a formidable voice for ethical biotech, became a regular fixture on news channels, championing my work and condemning Nexus's greed. My brother is alive and thriving today because Dr. Vivian Lee refused to compromise, Clara passionately told a crowd outside the courthouse. He is not a pawn in a corporate game. He is a human being, and his life matters more than Nexus's profits. The combined pressure from the FDA, the scientific community, and public opinion eventually forced Nexus Corp to a settlement. It was a monumental victory for ethical science. Nexus agreed to pay a record-breaking fine, fund a global foundation for genetic disease research to be overseen by Eris Thorne, and publicly apologize for their role in the Chimera scandal. Their CEO resigned, and the company underwent a massive restructuring, promising a renewed commitment to ethical practices. Alastair Thorne, facing a mountain of evidence, pleaded guilty to charges of scientific fraud and endangering public health. He received a substantial prison sentence, a stark warning to others in the industry. His once glittering career ended in shame and imprisonment, a tragic testament to unchecked ambition. Despite the ongoing public attention, I remained grounded. My focus was always on the science and the patients. My team continued to expand Chimera's applications, exploring its potential to address other monogenic diseases. I published several groundbreaking papers, not just on Chimera itself, but on the principles of ethical gene therapy development, advocating for transparency, robust safety protocols, and embedded authenticity markers in all future genetic treatments. One morning, I found myself back in my old lab, the one where I had first developed Chimera. It was now a dedicated training facility for new GeneX scientists. The hum of the sequencers was still there, but now it was accompanied by the excited chatter of young minds, eager to learn. I saw a young postdoc, barely out of grad school, meticulously preparing a sample, her brow furrowed in concentration, much like I had been just a few years ago. I walked over. "How's it going?" I asked, my voice gentle. The young woman, Dr. Anya Sharma, no relation to Maya's family, but a common surname in the scientific community, looked up, startled. "Oh, Dr. Lee, it's challenging. The precision required for these constructs, it's incredible. I'm just trying to make sure I get the genetic signature embedded perfectly." I smiled. "You'll get there. It takes practice. But remember, Anya, those signatures aren't just a technical detail. They're a promise. A promise of integrity, of safety, of authenticity. They're your personal commitment to the patient who will receive that construct." Anya nodded, a new understanding dawning in her eyes. "I understand, Dr. Lee. It's a part of the trust." "Exactly," I confirmed. "And in science, trust is everything. Trust in the data, trust in the process, and trust in each other." As I walked through the bustling labs of GeneX, now a thriving hub of ethical innovation, I realized the true extent of my impact. I hadn't just developed a cure, I had helped to change the culture of an entire industry. I had shown that scientific excellence and unwavering ethics were not mutually exclusive, but rather inherently intertwined. My daily life was a demanding blend of research, leadership, and advocacy. I traveled the world, speaking at conferences, meeting with patient groups, advising governments. But my heart always remained in the lab, among the hum of the sequencers and the silent promise of DNA. Alex Chen, now a director of bioinformatics, often came to me for advice. Evelyn Reed, my trusted head of clinical trials, ensured every study upheld the highest ethical standards. Elena Rodriguez continued to champion global access, ensuring Chimera reached the furthest corners of the world. And Clara Morales, the patient advocate, remained a powerful reminder of the human lives at the heart of our work. One evening, I sat in my office, looking out at the glittering expanse of San Francisco Bay. The sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, a calming balm after a long, intense day. I thought about Alastair Thorne, imprisoned and disgraced. I thought about Nexus Corp, humbled and restructured. And I thought about Maya, thriving, living a full life. The journey had been arduous, marked by betrayal and ethical challenges. But it had also been a journey of profound growth, of unwavering commitment, and ultimately, of immense triumph. I had emerged not just as a brilliant geneticist, but as a leader, a visionary, and a fierce defender of scientific integrity. I picked up the glass DNA helix on my desk, tracing the tiny luminous points with my finger. My genetic signatures, once a secret safeguard, now a symbol of hope. They were a reminder that even in the darkest corners of human ambition, the truth, when protected and championed, would always find its way to light. And that the purest science, guided by the purest intentions, possessed the power to truly heal the world, one precisely edited gene at a time. Years passed, and Project Chimera continued its remarkable trajectory. I became a household name, synonymous with scientific integrity and groundbreaking gene therapy. Under my leadership, GeneX transformed into a global powerhouse of ethical biotech, attracting top talent who were drawn to its values-driven mission. I, however, remained grounded. I accepted numerous awards, spoke at the Nobel Symposium, and was even appointed to a presidential task force on genetic ethics, but my core focus never wavered from the lab and my patients. I understood that true legacy wasn't built on accolades, but on consistent, impactful work. The long-term follow-up data for Chimera's initial human trials continued to be overwhelmingly positive. Maya, now a teenager, was not just living a normal life, but excelling. She became an eloquent advocate for genetic disease research, often speaking alongside me at conferences. Her story, a living testament to Chimera's success, resonated deeply with millions. Dr. Lee didn't just cure my disease, she gave me a future, Maya, now 15, declared at a major medical summit, her voice clear and strong. She proved that science, when done with integrity, can truly change the world. The legal repercussions for Nexus Corp served as a powerful deterrent across the pharmaceutical industry. The massive fines, coupled with stringent new regulations, forced companies to reconsider their market readiness strategies, emphasizing long-term safety and ethical development over rapid, profit-driven launches. The era of unchecked corporate ambition in biotech had, for the most part, come to an end, largely due to my stand. Alastair Thorne remained imprisoned, his appeals exhausted. His name was slowly fading from public memory, replaced by the inspiring narratives of ethical scientists like me. His legacy, once shining brightly, had been utterly consumed by the shadow of his own betrayal. I, with my team, continued to innovate. Project Chimera expanded beyond Huntington's, adapted and refined for other devastating monogenic disorders. My genetic signatures, now a universally recognized standard, were implemented in other GeneX gene therapies and even adopted by competing companies as a benchmark for authenticity and safety. Dr. Anya Sharma, the young postdoc I had mentored, rose through the ranks, eventually leading her own research team focused on advanced gene editing delivery systems. She often quoted me, repeating the mantra, "Those signatures aren't just a technical detail, they're a promise." Alex Chen, a quiet force of nature, continued to push the boundaries of bioinformatics, developing AI-driven systems that could not only verify genetic signatures, but also predict potential off-target effects with unprecedented accuracy, further enhancing Chimera's safety profile. He remained my closest scientific confidant. Evelyn Reed, a vigilant guardian of clinical ethics, ensured that every GeneX therapy was rigorously tested, transparently reported, and equitably distributed. Her work helped establish GeneX as a global leader in responsible drug development. Elena Rodriguez, from her vantage point in global public health, spearheaded initiatives that brought Chimera to underserved populations worldwide, often negotiating directly with governments and NGOs to overcome logistical hurdles. Her passion for global equity ensured that my cure reached those who needed it most, regardless of their circumstances. Clara Morales, the patient advocate, eventually joined GeneX's board of directors, her powerful voice now shaping corporate strategy and ensuring that the patient perspective remained at the heart of every decision. She founded several nonprofits dedicated to ethical medical research, inspired by my unwavering commitment. One day, on the 10th anniversary of Chimera's first human trial, GeneX hosted a grand celebration. Scientists, patients, advocates, and policymakers from around the world gathered to honor the revolutionary therapy and the woman behind it. I stood on stage, looking out at the diverse crowd. I saw Maya, now a confident young woman, chatting animatedly with Alex. I saw Clara, passionately debating a point with Evelyn. I saw Eris Thorne, a proud smile on his face. I saw countless faces, once shadowed by fear and despair, now beaming with health and hope. 10 years ago, I began, my voice filled with emotion, we embarked on a journey to confront a devastating disease. We faced challenges, betrayals, and ethical dilemmas that threatened to derail us. But we persevered, not because of a single person's genius, but because of a shared commitment to truth, integrity, and humanity. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. Project Chimera is more than just a scientific breakthrough. It is a testament to the idea that science, at its best, is a collaborative endeavor, guided by a moral compass and driven by compassion. It is a reminder that patient safety must always be our paramount concern, and that shortcuts, no matter how tempting, ultimately lead to ruin. I then held up a small device, an advanced genetic scanner Alex and I had developed. Today, every single dose of Chimera, every single vector, carries our indelible mark. It's more than just a signature. It's a promise to every patient that what they are receiving is pure, effective, and safe. It's a testament to the trust we've rebuilt, one gene, one life at a time. The applause was thunderous, a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. I felt a profound sense of fulfillment, a quiet joy that far surpassed any personal accolades. I had not only healed bodies, I had helped to heal the very soul of scientific research. After the ceremony, as the crowd slowly dispersed, I walked towards the giant glass windows of the GeneX atrium, looking out at the shimmering San Francisco Bay. The city lights twinkled, mirroring the stars above. Alex joined me, a quiet smile on his face. "You did it, Vivian. You truly changed the world." "We did it, Alex," I corrected gently. "None of this would have been possible without you, Evelyn, Elena, Clara, and so many others who chose integrity over complacency." I leaned against the railing, a thoughtful expression on my face. The genetic trap that Thorne and Nexus tried to set it was a potent reminder of the darkness that can infiltrate even the brightest scientific endeavors. But it also showed us the incredible power of light. The light of truth, the light of courage, and the light of unwavering ethical commitment. "And your genetic signatures," Alex added, "they became the ultimate symbol of that light." I nodded, a deep sense of peace settling over me. Yes, they started as a safeguard against theft, but they evolved into something far more profound. They became a promise to humanity. A promise that when we unlock the secrets of life, we will do so with responsibility, with compassion, and with an unyielding dedication to doing what is right. I turned to Alex, my eyes shining with renewed purpose. "The work isn't over, Alex. There are so many more diseases to conquer, so many more lives to touch. And we will continue to do so, guided by the lessons we've learned and by the principles that define us." As we stood there, watching the city lights blur into the horizon, I felt a surge of inspiration. The invisible woman was long gone. In my place stood a leader, a visionary, a testament to the enduring power of ethical science. My story was not just about overcoming betrayal, but about building a better future. One where every scientific discovery was a beacon of hope, imbued with integrity at its very core, ensuring that the miraculous potential of genetics would always be wielded for the greatest good of all humanity.